So there's other people summoned into this world. I guess that's something they probably should have brought up a long time ago, but there you have it. Just kind of drop that little bit of information in there out of nowhere. I like how Naofumi at least responds to it like, wait, who's this? Like, what? But anyways, this is my thoughts on the second episode of the Rising of Shield Hero second season, so let's jump into it. Most of this episode really kind of just centered around them preparing for the next fight of the Tortoise, but as well kind of getting into this familiar of the Tortoise, what I really kind of like. With the last episode, it kind of the introduction of Ost was just kill me. It's like, okay, well, this is going to be like one of those kind of maybe soulless doll type characters. I actually really love her Seiyu. I didn't realize who it was until she got a little bit kind of goofy and quirky in the meeting that they were having, and I'm like, oh, I know who that is. I love her Seiyu. But no, it was, I did like the fact that she's a little quirky. Like, I did like the fact that it almost has this idea of the familiar trying to be like the humans in order to manipulate them and everything, and obviously getting into details about her using this familial body to, yes, swoon royalty and get them in bed and whatnot. But really kind of the aspect of her acting like she knows what she's doing. She knows how humans work, but in actuality she doesn't, or she's smarter than she actually is, but they already figured that out kind of thing. And I really did like that aspect, even though it kind of just turns into you're just making a mockery of what we're doing here. But yeah, like I said earlier, technically they got into this aspect of what they're going to use against this Tortoise. And obviously some claiming that they're good enough, their army's strong enough that they'll be able to take down the Tortoise. But others going, no, you can't do that. We just sent our finest soldiers and they're wiped out. Well, additionally, on top of that, talking about how they have the 7-star heroes, which again, it was an aspect of, wow, okay, that's interesting. Didn't know that. But I guess that was what kind of happened sort of in the first season with this whole idea of this other world and these other heroes coming from this other world, but something that's not really common knowledge, seemingly, in this world. This world, common knowledge is that there's the 7-star heroes, and apparently some are from other worlds that were summoned as well, but there was also some chosen within this world to be these heroes. So kind of a mixture of both the people that are here and those that are brought here. Which again, like I said earlier, I didn't really know that was a thing in this world until now. I hope it's not a sign that this writer likes to go, oh, by the way, this exists in this world, and nobody ever talked about it before, but now they're talking about it. That's where it kind of gets a little bit buggy to me. So if anybody knows, maybe possibly they mentioned it in the first season. I don't remember them mentioning it. Obviously, Naofumi was shocked, like, what, wait, what? So, but at any rate, these are supposed to be, I guess, like, budget heroes. Like they're supposedly not as strong as the 4 heroes. They're just kind of like weaker versions of them, but they're like chosen people that use vassals as weapons. So I don't know if vassals as weapons mean it's going to be in this idea of somebody turning somebody into weapon, that kind of vassal type thing, but it's usually typically with the direction it'll go. So I'll be curious to see exactly how that plays out, if it'll be an aspect of, again, it's one person with another person that's their vassal and they use it, or if it's going to be just the vassal as a weapon. But I'll be curious if that leads into something. I mean, we've obviously not really dug too much into the other heroes, what their mindsets of, where they came from. They've obviously mentioned the idea that I believe, if I remember correctly, it's one of those things of like, am I thinking of a different show? I think if I remember correctly, they are from different time periods. Naofumi and all the other ones are from different time periods of the same world. But I'll be interested to see what the 7 heroes end up being. Are they also from Naofumi's world? Are they from different time periods as well? That would be a curious thing to kind of get into if they do. But yeah, this is when Ost shows up and they start talking about the fact that she is pretty much a familiar of the Tortoise. They also talk about the aspect that this is kind of an interesting thing, but at the same time, not too, like being perfectly honest. So far with his first 2 episodes, not really sold on the second season. I'll just be brutally honest there. I'll get that out of here, just so everybody knows where my mindset's right now. It can easily get better from this point on. But yes, technically, big turtle that destroys everything. But I think this was like a little small nugget that was a little bit interesting in the idea that the Tortoise is kind of this thing, the stopgap, I guess you would want to call it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's some sort of thing within the system itself, but maybe it might be something outside of the hero system. But what it basically claims is that as these waves happen, the Tortoise can essentially sacrifice lives in order to stop the waves, which ties in with Naofumi seeing the clock stop. The clock is obviously stopping because souls are being dispersed and it's stopping the waves. And this is kind of a sign of what she essentially talks about, which is this isn't supposed to happen yet, essentially. This isn't supposed to be happening yet. The whole system that she's describing is that if they can't stop the waves, she is supposed to tell the 4 heroes how to unlock the tortoise so they can sacrifice lives and thus stop the waves, which is, again, kind of the final straw because it requires the lives of everybody. So you'll stop the waves, but you'll destroy the world, or you'll destroy all of mankind, essentially. The world will still exist, the waves will stop, but this is a way of kind of stopping the clock. But somebody has released it before it was supposed to be released. Normally, she's supposed to go to the heroes and say, you can't stop the waves, here's how you do this. Release the tortoise and kill everybody. So again, like I said before, my thought process was the wave stopping, clock stopping, a part of this whole story? They made the tie-in there. Now, it could still be something else, but who released it is obviously going to be the big question. I hope it's something interesting. It's not just going to be, oh, well, let's just introduce something different. Is it going to be somebody that believes the heroes are not going to stop everything? Is it Victoria? Is it somebody that believes that the heroes, or at least has had first knowledge of the heroes and knows they will never work together to stop the waves, and thus they're trying to basically put an end to it before everything else happens? That's kind of where my mindset's going, that whoever is the puppeteer behind the background that has released the tortoise fully knows these 4 heroes will never come together. They're never going to stop the waves because they're never going to work together. But the only person that we know of right now that has that conclusion is Victoria. Now, Victoria is still waiting to see if Naofumi will pull everybody together. So I don't believe it's her, but it wouldn't shock me. I still have the same feeling I did in the first episode. I feel like the pacing's a little bit off. They're obviously trying to push things forward pretty quickly with this particular season, and maybe it's because they got something interesting to get into and they're trying to get past all this stuff. But it was kind of funny to have like these moments where obviously Raftalia is trying to tell Naofumi, don't give up on these generals. The generals are honestly trying to help their people. They're angry. You see them as wanting to claim the glory of this battle. They're fighting over who's going to lead and who's going to get credit. But in actuality, they still want to save their people. So give them a chance. And also kind of encourage him in the idea that if you come to them with a plan that they can't refuse or refute necessarily, they will follow you. And then it just cuts to them following him. It's like, okay, I guess they accepted whatever he chose to do. Everybody's hunky-dory and going along with the whole thing. So there we go. And yeah, they kind of conclude the episode with a little scene with... It was funny because Naofumi, and this is another one of those things that like it feels like things are kind of just rushing through. Naofumi tells Rishia specifically, you go with, I believe it was Ost, to the royal capital, whatever, go to this library to get any information you can on this tortoise so that we can see if we can find a way to cut its head off or if any information for the battle. And it cuts to this like montage and it shows Ost and Rishia and the queen. They're all there and they're looking through books, and then boom, it cuts over and they're having a campfire and everybody's back here again. It's like, okay, they're just teleporting back and forth really quickly. I thought she was over here studying. Why is she now at the campfire talking about ways of swooning the bow hero? But yeah, Ost giving little advice to Rishia because obviously she's manipulated men for her entire familial life. So I get a kick out of the fact that Raftalia quickly, her ears twitched like, oh, advice? Oh, advice? But this, of course, has turned this whole thing about like, wait, what is she talking about? Naofumi, what is she talking about? And thankfully it gets cut off because the tortoise is apparently awakened again. So we'll see how that battle goes. I'll be interested to see. I'm assuming maybe like a battle, like an entire episode of battling this tortoise. I don't really, hopefully it's not too nasty CGI or anything like that, but I'll be interested to see the 7. My big peak curiosity right now is seeing the 7. I'm really, that's like the only thing really I'm super curious about is the 7. Everything else around this story is just, like I said, the stopping of the clock's interesting, but a big turtle, okay, sure, we'll see how this goes. But anyway, that's my thoughts on episode 2 of Shield Heroes second season. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know what's the the episode, subscribe if you haven't already, share this if you can, support us on Patreon, or throw a tips link in the description below. We definitely appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.